and Donkey arguing, the two of them. Well, who was really king? Bull Lion and Donkey arguing between...
Hello from Castlegory, from Mickey and from me. Mickey has been feeling particularly affectionate, so I'm going to give her a little kiss and then I'm going to plunge right in. Endless Possibilities has two questions for me. The first is, Lady C, hello from Toronto, Canada. Hazardas Harry. H.A. says that A-R-D-A-S. You guys can be so funny. Oh gosh. Has told the world everyone should quit their job if it affects their mental health! Exclamation mark. Well, I agree it is wise to leave your job if it is toxic or dangerous. One cannot leave one's job because one just doesn't like it and then have to face financial problems. What do you think about his comment? Well, before I say what I think, I'm going to read out something that somebody called Ashley wrote, and that several people commented on the fact that I should read it out. And I am going to, because I think it makes excellent listening. Ashley says, someone needs to explain to the newly freed victim of wealth that the world that went round for his 37 years of life did so on account of hard-working people, the majority of whom did not like their jobs. The polo matches he played, and here I qualify by saying this is just something that has been written and that I am reading out. I don't necessarily agree with it for legal reasons. The polo matches he played, brackets, while stabbing and abusing the horses as he was known to do, close quotes, had wait staff for him. He had older ones shining his shoes, serving him his favourite meals by request, the best ingredients and limitless amounts of them, while seniors in his own country, who slaved at jobs they hated all their lives, lived on a pittance of a pension. Someone pressing his clothes, changing his linens, cleaning his hangover toilet. Oh dear, Mickey. Oh, sniffles. You notice Meghan does an awful lot of this as well. I wonder if she has a cold as well, as I do. Now, let me pick up back where I was. Now that he's left that dungeon of horrors, she doesn't specify, but it's called a palace, to live in sunny California, fleecing the public of the nations meant for the disadvantaged. Well, I'm sure that some portion of it goes to a worthy cause. And we all know charity starts at home. So nothing wrong if people are stupid enough to donate, that it goes where it is allocated. Nothing wrong with that, I say, for legal reasons. The poor soul is still being waited on. Private chefs, private jets, drivers, gardeners and landscapers, cooks and maids. Let's not forget security. Security, lots of security. That's my interjection. Nannies, as in more than one. Well, of course they need more than one nanny. I mean, they have 2 children. To take care of a toddler and an infant? Question mark. I suppose the job of motherhood and fatherhood is beneath them as well. Oh, you are wicked, Ashley, wicked. But let me continue. Doesn't make them truly happy? Why would you say that, Ashley? I mean, look at them. They're obviously happy. I mean, look at how much they complain. It's surely a form of boasting. Anyway, to not interrupt myself. Harry, if everyone quit their jobs for something they love, who would wipe your posterior? And she uses a 3-letter word beginning with A and ending with S. Listen, my ideal job is to play with puppies and kittens all day. All damn day. It's the only thing that will fulfill me and bring me lasting joy. Ain't no one gonna pay me to do it though! Exclamation mark. This guy is absolutely insufferable and has a complete lack of world awareness. Yes, well, when you have been spoilt, indulged, pampered, and allowed to believe that you were better than you were, naturally, as Harry has been, and then you have fallen into the grasp of somebody who not only mirrors every single one of your failings, but exaggerates them. Is it any surprise that we have this ridiculous creature pontificating? I mean, this is somebody who couldn't even pass his art exam without getting eaten into trouble for having, according to the tutor, who actually helped to cheat on his behalf, couldn't pass it without assistance. And he's now at world authority on everything, including jobs. Well, I think we should look at it from this point of view. Harry has a message. Give up your job, join Better Up for however many $100 or $1,000 a month it is, so that Better Up, because remember, he was doing this on behalf of Better Up, you know, the organization that he is, I forget what he is, chief mental health officer sort of thing. You know, this really is a case of the lunatics having taken over the asylum, because Harry has absolutely no qualifications to be pontificating the way he does, as he's never really worked. He's never had a proper job. And the job he had, he abandoned. So yes, he is trying to let himself off the hook by pretending that he understands the lot of the common man and the common woman, just because he couldn't stick glad-handing people in England for no money when he and she wanted to go to California and glad-hand people for a lot of money. I'm sorry, the whole thing is beyond preposterous. You really couldn't make it up. However, what do I really think? I think Harry is a massive flatus. That's what I think. I don't know why they simply don't plug him up to the national grid and let him away. I mean, really, honestly, the flatulence that comes out of this man's mouth alone. I think he should be plugged to the national grid. I think that, maybe if Meghan joined him as well, that will solve all our energy problems. Because really, never have I seen, nor has anyone else, such preposterousness. Now, the second part of the question is, Sarah Ferguson says she's the most persecuted woman in royal history. Do you agree with this drama queen? Oh gosh, I have to tell you. Endless possibilities. You're very funny. I take it you're trying to cue me to say that she's a drama queen? No, she's not. I actually know Sarah York slightly and used to rather like her more than I do now. She does have a kind side to her. She also is totally delusional. I mean, she's been persecuted. Excuse me. I'm not going to be indecorous enough to remind Sarah York of the many indiscretions, and I'm being polite here, that she has committed. In fact, gross indiscretions, some of which ended up on the front pages of the news of the world, which were certainly totally unacceptable conduct. And she is the most persecuted woman in royal history. Sweetie pie, you still have your head. Not only do you have your head, you have your motor mouth that you're using. Don't you realize that you're not doing yourself, your children, or your ex-husband and sort of pseudo-husband still any favors by making preposterous comments like that? I mean, really, how many tasteless jerks, creeps, and pretenders do we have to put up with on the royal scene? Gary Halliday says, if the donation had been to a political party, I could understand the fuss. However, even here in Australia, recognition by the awarding of an Order of Australia for charity donations work is very common. Of course, Mr. Halliday is referring to the donations that were made to Prince Charles's charities and to Prince Harry's charities. Remember the ones where Harry expressed concerns? But give me the money, give me the money, give me the money. No, 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 no. Don't, get back. Don't. No, don't. I'm not going to give it back to you. No, get your hands off my money. Clung on to it. Like somebody clinging onto a life raft in the middle of the Atlantic. And not once, but twice. The accounts show it. The published accounts show it. Yes, Gary Halliday, your point is a valid one. And I notice you're Australian. Rupert Murdoch, of course, is Australian as well. And we all know the mischief that Aussie creates worldwide. There's an awful lot to be said about press barons. Not that he actually is a baron, but it's a categorization. So to resume what I was saying, press barons knowing their place and what their duty is. And Rupert Murdoch, your duty is not to undermine the state and undermine the freedoms of the individual as you shoot rubbish over people and create mischief and havoc. Sharon Stevens says, can somebody clarify, but didn't Angelina Jolie receive an honorary damehood for her contribution to charitable endeavours? Which, as far as I'm aware, is not an unusual practice to honour someone for a selfless or monetary contribution. Sharon Stevens, very well observed. Of course, there are people who would say that Angelina Jolie's selflessness was rather, am I not wonderful? Look at me with all these poor little people. I'm just so wonderful. Evidently, she was busy using her celebrity to get herself not only boosted up in terms of charity, which is fine as far as I'm concerned, but also to boost herself career-wise. My understanding is that it's William Hague who was completely besotted with her and who drove through the honorary damehood against an awful lot of opposition from people who thought, why are we giving an honorary damehood to a Hollywood actress who has little or nothing to do with this country and rarely has little or nothing to do with charity in this country? But yes, your point is valid, and it shows that Angelina Jolie, who to the best of my knowledge never pushed her hand in her pocket once, she was very good at giving photo ops. She got a damehood, honorary, but they are objecting to the fact that somebody who gave several £million got an honorary CBE? I mean, so one is up there, the other is down here. He gives a whole lot, she gives nothing but photo ops, and hers is fine, but his isn't. So what? Giving money now means that you shouldn't get a reward? I mean, what planet are people on? I'm now going to read out what Centre Barley, the charity that got £50,000 from Mahfouz Mubarak Mahfouz, what Centre Barley says. And Centre Barley is the charity, to those of you who don't know, that Harry started at the behest of Mark Dyer with one of the Lesotho princes. They say it is entirely normal and legitimate for patrons to meet potential donors on whose support we depend. This includes the 2 donations received in 2013 and 2014 from the Mahfouz Foundation, donations that we would not have accepted if we believed there was anything improper behind them. So in other words, Centre Barley has announced that Harry is full of that hot air that he's busy blowing. Like a little child blowing its lips, but he's blowing hot air. And Centre Barley has effectively called him a liar. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's see how Harry's going to rationalise that with the act of treachery that he committed, not only against his father and the British nation, because we need people to make charitable donations. And if rich foreigners wish to support causes in this country, not only should they be encouraged, they should be actively encouraged. They should not have their motives questioned when they asked Harry for nothing in return. But we'll get to the fact that Harry is now, seems to be pitching a tent with, maybe gypsy robes, and he's now going to be reading fortunes. We'll get to that in a second. Abuela Maria says, Harry has a lot of explaining to do. If he had misgivings, why did he keep the $60,000 donation, as well as Meghan's blood diamond earrings and pinky ring? Isn't anyone in the UK media going to ask these questions? Harry and Meghan have so intimidated the media in the United Kingdom that they are shying away from speaking the immediate truth. Let's not even get to their former truths. Isn't it interesting that Meghan clung to the gift that she received from Mohammed bin Salman and wore it, then of course denied that she knew what it was? Oh, my memory. Oh, give me that script. Oh, God, I've got a great memory for scripts, but not such a great memory for facts. Now, where did these earrings come from again? Oh, they must have been given to me by a wonderful person. Oh, wonderful, yes. Cleaner and fresher than the driven snow. Angela Caffeine says, Harry, give the 60,000 back now that you are questioning Mr. Mahfouz's motives. Oh, and perhaps your wife should send back the diamond earrings the Saudi prince gave her, considering her concerns regarding motives, or your concerns regarding motives. Well, apples will grow on a lilac tree before they give back anything of value. You can depend on that. And the charity has made it absolutely clear that it has no intention of giving back the much-needed funds, because there was nothing amiss. There were no concerns, and Harry's claims now to having had concerns are, at the best, shall we say, fallacious. D. Strong says, who knew Prince Harry was such a remarkable clairvoyant? And this is where we now get to Harry pitching a tent, gypsy style, with maybe a sort of something nice and decorative on his head, and turning over the cards. And I do wish Harry would treat us to his foresight when it happens, when he has the foresight, and not after the event has happened. It seems to me very suspicious that Harry has all these astute foresights. He and Meghan are really very clever. I mean, remember, Harry's the one who nearly foiled that coup d'etat that was going to take place at the Capitol, and he got in touch with the guy from, I think it was whichever media thing, and said to him that a coup d'etat is going to take place, and the guy didn't even bother to answer his calls. That's what he says now. And now, concerns about Mr. Mahfouz. dear. Harry's such a clairvoyant. I wonder what he sees in his future with regard to the rewards of treachery. I wonder how many pieces of silver he sees stacking up in the Delaware account of Archewell. Their entity, which we now discover is basically a company. Oh dear. Mary West says, Lady C, I read in Lady Glenconner's book that she was dating Diana's father. She was crazy about him. When he found out about some special needs cousins in her family, he broke up with her, telling her he didn't want to tarnish his bloodline with any special needs kids. He had to see to the earldom, and it broke her heart. What do I think of that? I read it too. I don't know Lady Glenconner. I knew her husband. According to her, if I recall correctly, in her autobiography, my sister-in-law had an affair with her husband. Well, my sister-in-law never told me that. I know she had an affair with JFK, and according to her, I said, so how was it? She said, I blinked. Which said it all. I blinked. Speedy Gonzales, here we come. Yes, it was the Trefusis family that had the problem. It's Huntingdon's chorea. And the girls in question were the nieces of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. That's the connection. It had nothing whatsoever to do with the Earls of Leicester or the Cook, as it is pronounced. It's spelled Coke, C-O-K-E, but it's pronounced Cook. In much the same way that Coke, David Coke's name is spelled K-O-C-H, but it's pronounced C-O-K-E. Well, the Cook family, the Earls of Leicester, it was not their bloodline, and Johnny Spencer didn't even have the decency to confront her. He just dumped her as if she was rubbish, as if she was an ignominious, inconsequential piece of garbage. My understanding has always been that a lady or a gentleman severs a personal relationship in person. Only jerks do it in Dear John or Dear Jane letters. One doesn't do it over the phone, and one certainly wouldn't be doing it by email nowadays. Says a lot about Johnny Althrup, as he then was known. Lady C, isn't those CBE award things what King George V started to thank all those hard-working people on the front lines during World War I? I mean, even the Queen's Garden Party is to honour people because of their charity work. You're thinking, my dear, of the Order of the British Empire, which King George V started in 1917. And there are several grades to it. It will do. The fact of the matter is, yes, most of these awards are for people who make a contribution. It can be a financial contribution. It can be in your personal labour. You can give time, presence, your presence, CE. There are all sorts of reasons why people have their contributions acknowledged. I will repeat it. Rupert Murdoch and the Sunday Times are mischievous. They have tried to weaponize a perfectly acceptable form of raising money that is detrimental to the interests of charities and this country generally. But Rupert Murdoch doesn't care about this country. Rupert Murdoch doesn't even live here most of the time. This country is simply one of the many places that he exploits in his quest for power. Tanya Bluebell says, wokeness is very similar to a fundamentalist religion where everyone is trying to outdo each other with how holy they are. In the process, they accuse their fellow members of sin in order to appear more righteous. I've witnessed it firsthand. Both are man-made rules to achieve false righteousness. Do I agree? I certainly do. I certainly do. All forms of fundamentalism and extremism are an abuse and a misuse of the true purposes of any religion, which is a pathway to goodness and to your understanding of God and to the enrichment of your soul. Betraying people, denouncing people, silencing people whose opinion you do not agree with, getting people dismissed because they don't like you. These are all variations of the Salem witch hunt. Famous play, famous incident. Look it up if you don't know about it. I don't think I need to say very much more. An absolute betrayal of goodness. Evil posing as goodness. That's what it is. Darth Laurel says, if a white man said what Amal Rajan had said about a black woman, namely what he said about the Cambridges, especially the Duchess of Cambridge, he'd get a knock on his door from the police. We all know that. Let's stop either this stupid hate crime law or stop any of this. In fairness, he was using a figure of speech. I think he was using a figure of speech. And insofar as I'm aware, there is actually not any such thing as a hate crime. It's not on the statute books, to the best of my knowledge. The police can pitch up and try to charge you with something else. The whole thing is outrageous. And even if there were laws that said that you're not allowed to hate, why is it that Amal Rajan can say he'd like to throw a brick at the Duchess of Cambridge, but Piers Morgan, who simply said, I don't believe the Duchess of Sussex, he gets dismissed. Amal Rajan keeps his job. And yes, Darth Laurel, I think your observation is right. There is racial prejudice at play here. Yes, there is. Very sad, but true. J.H. says, do you think the evil woman is driving her husband out of his mind, maybe with catastrophic results? Well, as I said in my book, Meghan and Harry, the real story, I had been told that Harry's loved ones were afraid that Meghan would ultimately drive him to the point of suicide. I think Harry's conduct this year has shown us that rather than being an unwilling victim, he is a very willing conspirator, co-conspirator. If he's not, he's giving a pretty good impression of somebody who is treacherous, disloyal, mendacious, delusional, arrogant, impertinent, all-knowing, an authority figure on everything, busy shooting off his mouth on every subject, yet he couldn't pass anything but worms when he took exams. Shona Griffith says, will any new free speech legislation end the use of super injunctions, which allow the superrich to buy freedom from accountability? Wonderful question. Of course, this refers to the fact that the government is looking into passing laws that guarantee freedom of speech in this country, because the courts have been, for some time now, making rulings that are distorting freedom of expression at the expense of right to privacy. One of the weapons with which the rich and the powerful have been able to avoid the consequences of their actions and exposure when at times it was possibly in the public interest for them to be exposed, has been the so-called instrument super injunction. Yes, if we have a law that guarantees freedom of speech, that is going to seriously hamper the misdoers, if there's such a word, from getting away with their misdeeds. I'm sure there will be occasions when privacy does trump public interest and the right of the press to expose. But let me put it this way. 6 of the 7 veils are going to be torn away. And nothing wrong with that. As I keep on saying, we need a vigorous and free press in this country. With all its failings, with all the happenstance that happens, all the rubbing up the wrong way, it is still one of our best guarantees for us to continue to be free. It's not possible to be free when you have an elite doing what they want and telling you to do what you don't want to do. In other words, a variation on the Harry and Meghan theme. And on that note, I will say, thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and please keep the questions coming in. This can't be done without you. God bless. Bye-bye.